is Jess Bennett. I serve as Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities. I'm talking to you today about the institutional change process that we've developed over the last 7 years as part of our Aspire Alliance work. We'll be talking today specifically about how our process, designed to support institutional transformation at individual universities seeking to make change, can be adapted to support a regional collaborative seeking to establish better pathways from four-year graduate students into faculty roles at two-year institutions. Before we get into the details of the iChange process, I wanted to share a little bit about how the process was developed, what was informing it, and what are our philosophies behind it. At the end of the day, the iChange process is a guided pathway for our campus team focused on identifying and designing a change strategy. It's informed by work we've done over the last 7 years with over 70 campus teams, and these teams were comprised of administrators, faculty, and staff. So we've gotten a lot of on-the-ground feedback from the best strategies and approaches, the tools that have been the most useful to those teams, and really seen how change processes work at a lot of different kinds of institutions who are dealing with different state context, leadership dimensions, faculty, bodies, student populations, and all the other ways that institutions vary from location to location. At the end of the day, the iChange process is really designed to help walk a team through some critical conversations that will help them get on the same page about a change they're trying to make, understand who they are together as a team and their views of the change they're trying to make, get into the weeds of the deeper causes that might be hindering progress on a change goal, and to really identify and use the literature base on faculty careers to design and implement policy and practice changes that most impact the experience of faculty and future faculty in the academic workplace. And then finally, the process is really designed to get you to having a clear action plan that you can move forward on and be confident in, as well as one that's adaptable and sustainable to really respond to the current environment you're operating in. But I do want to reiterate that our iChange process tools are really designed to facilitate conversations. There are a lot of worksheets and step-by-step guides that walk you through thinking through different dimensions of a change. And really, at the end of the day, whether you put type a single word or write a single word into one of these worksheets, we're really trying to kind of break apart critical conversation dimensions that are important to consider. And so they're really a launch pad for conversations. It's also not an algorithm, right? Going through our process does not automatically spit out what you need to be doing. What it will be doing is helping you focus, prioritize, and really weigh the different options that you might have. So I'm going to do a brief overview now of the process. So our iChange process has been divided into 3 phases. Over the next 10 minutes or so, I will break down each of these phases, highlight a tool from within that phase, and really talk about what we're trying to accomplish at this phase in the process. You'll also note that in each phase, we have a change management focus. And this was one of the key things we really brought as we were developing our iChange process, is that you can have a perfect plan, but if you haven't figured out how to bring your campus community along with you for the change you're trying to make, whether that's a department level unit, a subgroup of faculty within that department, or the entire institution, you may really struggle with actually implementing the really great ideas you come up with. So across each phase, there's a specific change management focus that we'll highlight as well. On to phase 1. Phase 1 is really about launching your change agenda, right? So if you're coming together, especially to form a regional collaborative, you may already have a broad sense of a problem defined, right? We want to find better and easier ways to prepare and interest graduate students at four-year institutions into two-year faculty roles. And so there are a lot of different dimensions to that. And you're going to have a lot of different people serving on your team as you try to build out a collaborative. So it's going to be really important to think about who should be on that team. Again, through that forming a team. What do we all agree is the essential critical challenge we're trying to solve, because we might all be coming at it from really different points of views, and we need to take some time to come together. And then really thinking about refining your problem statement, or in other words, your elevator pitch. So as you go to other campus constituents and you explain what you're trying to accomplish, are you all on the same page in describing it? If they hear team member A talk about it and then team member B talk about it, are they going to feel like they're hearing about the same initiative? Because sometimes we really talk differently about the goals we're trying to achieve, and that could be confusing to our external audiences. The change management focus within phase one is really focusing on clarifying and communicating that North Star goal. This is so critical because institutions of higher education are complicated places to lead change within. Faculty have autonomy and self-determination and shared governance structures. That means that we can't roll out a management directive and everyone just gets on board. So that means we have to do a lot of work to help people understand what we're trying to achieve, and then agree that the process that we're going to use to achieve it will actually get us to that goal. So if we don't understand those elements to attend to as we're thinking about our strategies and thinking about our core goals, we may not make as much progress as we would otherwise. Our featured tool in phase one is our guidance on forming a team. Really, this is the foundation of the work you're moving forward. How are you pulling together a group of people that have different roles, possibly different institutions in a regional collaborative, different talents and strengths, and pulling them together to actually achieve something all together? So our forming a team guidance really focuses on three dimensions of the team composition, team dynamics, and team structure. In composition, we're encouraging you to think beyond just formal roles and responsibilities. Think about talent, strengths, available effort, and expertise that you might be tapping as part of your team. In team dynamics, we're helping you think through, how do we build relationships and camaraderie? How do we share knowledge and perspectives and capacity? How do we manage the work of a team and make it easy for folks to participate in team activities? And how do we handle decision making? This is really critical because sometimes we all have different ideas about what the whole team should weigh in on, what a subset should weigh in. If you have grant funding supporting your efforts, what does the PI get to decide versus everybody else? And so you really want to be clear, especially with a multi-campus team, that you're coming together. And that's going to impact your team structure, right? You might want to consider everyone just has a role on the team and we're all on the same page, but you might want a more elaborate structure that includes an advisory group of experiential experts, say graduate students interested in faculty careers, or early career faculty at a two-year institution who've just transitioned from being graduate students. They could be really great advisors to a working committee that's trying to work on these pathways. You may also want a topic-focused task force. So this is really going to focus on, oh, one of us should, a group of us might focus on mentoring relationships. One of us might focus on practicum and the kind of teaching and learning support that we want to offer graduate students. And another might be on the specific pathways that we're trying to create, opportunities for learning and experience. The other option might be unit-based task forces, right? So each of these connections or structures that you could have will impact, how does decision making flow? Who do you need on the team, right? And so these are all really important considerations as you're launching your change work. In the next phase, you're really going to be thinking about deepening your understanding of your institutional challenge. And again, this framework was developed more so for an individual institution in mind. So you could think of this as your collaborative's challenge, but I also think it's really helpful to think about each institution in a collaborative is going to have a different set of institutional conditions that they're trying to work through. So there might be different things that are helping them participate and hindering them. That if once you've achieved those goals, it might be helpful to have each institution do their own analysis of what's helping them and hindering them in moving forward. So these things include thinking about the root cause analysis. So if you're noticing not a lot of interest in two-year faculty careers, well, that's a particular thing you have to dig into to understand why is that. And so your solutions might be really dependent on that. Versus your institutional analysis will kind of tell you, well, what about how our institution operates is creating barriers or creating opportunities? And then the policy and practice audit can really help you think about, what specific policies and practices do we want to do we currently have, and can we put in place? The policy and practice audit is a whole other series, video in this series, and we hope you'll dig in deeper on that. Our change management focus in this place is really thinking about different forms of resistance, including process-based resistance. So sometimes we get so excited about the idea of what we're trying to do, we forget that we need to bring everyone along with us and get them invested in the change. I'm going to very briefly touch on our featured tool in phase two, which is our Faculty Success Framework Institutional Analysis tool. What this really is intended to do is to help you break out of break out of getting too deep in the weeds on what needs to change and really thinking about your current and desired states at your institution for enhancing faculty contributions to what you're trying to accomplish. So in this case, if it's developing these strong relationships between a two-year institution and a four-year institution, it's thinking about what do the faculty need to make that happen, what's happening in the external environment, what's happening in your infrastructure, how are these things changing or creating the conditions for this kind of engagement. And then you might think about, well, what do we need to do to help people do this better? What barriers do we need to remove? How can we maybe define excellence in a way that lets someone see that this effort aligns with our vision of this work? And then how do we change the culture, right? If there's a bias toward at four-year institutions towards four-year institutions, how do you begin to change that culture? And then there's an area to think about what do you really want to do and put into place. So this is just a brief overview. We hope you'll engage that tool as well. In phase three, you're now really thinking about the specifics of your change strategy to achieve your goals, right? So what specifically are we going to do? And this can be within a single institution or within the collective of the collaborative, right? So it's thinking about what are we trying to achieve? What's our action? And why are we doing that? So this ties back to our root cause analysis, our institutional analysis of we're going to establish this training program because we believe faculty need to better understand the different career paths available to graduate students in order to help advise them best on finding the best match for themselves, just as an example, right? So you want to be able to talk about why you're doing the things you're doing. You also want to be able to understand if you're making progress, right, through meaningful progress indicators. And then you also want to be thinking about is all this work we're doing to understand ourselves, understand the relationships across different organizations within a collaborative, is this work going to be sustained? And how we adapt as conditions change within our our regional context, or within our institutions themselves. And then in this section, in this phase, our change management focus is really thinking about the key sponsors and champions who really help to build momentum and buy-in for your change. So these folks are really going to be those that maybe aren't on the core team doing this work, but are going to be that champion that maybe helps unearth resources to support something. They're going to be the people that really help bring along others that might be resistant or unwilling to change, right? Because they may not be the evangelists on your campus, but they're going to be someone whose opinion matters and helps move things forward. Our featured tool that we're talking about here for phase three is setting meaningful progress indicators. I find this to be a really important dimension of planning a change program because so often we focus on those lagging indicators, graduation rates, tenure rates, hiring rates, and there are all these little decisions and spots for intervention and spots for feedback before we ever get to those final numbers that oftentimes we're not thinking about. And also, a lot of those bigger lagging indicators, as we call them, are also influenced by so many things that are out of our control, right? If someone's doing a partner hire search where they and their partner are trying to find a place to work, it may not matter how great your search process was, they still may make a different choice. And that isn't always helpful feedback, right, for then improving it for their next candidate. So leading indicators really help you think about what's our process doing? Are we kind of seeing immediate turnaround? Are we getting feedback more immediately on a step in a process as opposed to the endpoint of the process? And how are we changing the behaviors, right? So often we focus so much on changing culture, but if we can get behaviors to change, often that will lead to culture change because people just start doing things differently. So I really think that leading and lagging indicators are a really useful tool for helping you quickly pivot and move and adapt to the current environment. So I've been trying to thread examples of what a regional collaborative might be using this tool, but I wanted to just drive home how I think each phase of our process could be really useful for a regional collaborative. So again, in phase one, we really want to be thinking about establishing our common ground. How are we uh, ensuring that we're all coming at this from the same approach with the same vision? And even if you don't all 100% agree, what is the common ground that you have? And now, can I understand a little bit better what team member A is thinking when they say, when they suggest a certain activity or strategy, rather than me assuming that their point of view on something is identical to mine or opposed to mine? So these can be really helpful, and they can help you think about how's our messaging and does our messaging need to look different about the things we're trying to accomplish in each of our individual institutional contexts. Likely they are. In phase two, we really want to think about what those barriers are to success for the collaborative. So this is where that suggestion of looking at each institution and how they're going to be able to contribute using the tools in phase two might be really helpful, right? Because even if you have 5 2-year institutions in your collaborative, they might each operate very differently, have different strengths, different opportunities available to them. And so we want to be able to understand what we're bringing to the table as an institution, what our barriers are, so that then we can be really honest about how that might impact our achievement of our goals, and then inform our strategies that we're going to set for setting our activities in phase three. And then in phase three, we really want to use our tools to set clear objectives, indicators, and sustainability plans, right? Do we know what we're trying to achieve together? I think there's so many great activities that our past regional collaboratives have done, but I wonder if we all understood why we were doing them, right? And so making sure everyone understands, how does this fit into the goal we're trying to achieve? And there may be activities that you decide to do in a regional collaborative that our past regional collaboratives haven't done, because they meet the needs you have now for your community, your collaborative, and in your region. So we really want you to be thinking about those things. At the end of the day, the iChange process is really, again, to reiterate, to help you have conversations, help you identify priorities, help you move things forward. And we really hope that you find it helpful for you as you go forward in establishing a regional collaborative. I'm always happy to be contacted about the work we've done with the Institutional Change Initiative at APLU, the iChange process itself, the Aspire Alliance generally. And so I do hope you'll reach out and contact if you have any questions. Thank you so much.